Hunter Biden says that his taxes are under investigation by the Justice Department. We're just learning about this now, even though reports have been circulating for months. New reports say the probe is much more extensive than his statement indicates. Here's what he said. I am confident that a professional and objective review of these matters will demonstrate that I handled my affairs legally and appropriately. Politico says federal prosecutors investigated Biden's foreign ties and possible money laundering, according to one source with knowledge of this probe. Now, a second source told Politico that Hunter's brother James was also questioned, or I think this is Joe Biden's brother James, was also questioned about his role in the business dealings. The Biden transition team released a statement, which was a little strange that it would come from them, considering Hunter is a private citizen. President-elect Biden is deeply proud of his son, who has fought through difficult challenges, including the vicious personal attacks of recent months, only to emerge stronger. Joining us now to talk more about this and what it might mean for a potential Biden presidency is Marc Lotter. He's a former director of strategic communications for the Trump 2020 campaign. Marc, great to see you as always.
Yeah, good to see you, John.
So, we reported about this, and we reported a lot about the fact that the story that the New York Post did, which was some great journalism, was suppressed heavily by the media. And if you look at the cover of the Politico story today versus the one they were talking about just a couple of months ago, they were calling it this all disinformation back then. But now, whoa, there's an FBI investigation. Marc, what are you most surprised about here? The fact that, or least surprised, I guess I should say, that Hunter Biden is actually under investigation by the FBI, that the media suppressed it, or his own actions were just so appalling in the first place?
Well, none of the above. None of it surprises me. We know that the mainstream media did everything they could to try to bury this story, censor this story through big tech, because it looked badly on Joe Biden before the election. But now, lo and behold, you have mainstream media outlets jumping at the knowledge that we already knew. We already knew that there was a money laundering investigation. We knew that things were being investigated, but no one would cover it back in October. They wait until early December, after the election, for all intents and purposes, is done, to suddenly take an interest in this. And I would be surprised if it stops at Hunter Biden or James Biden. I mean, let's remember that we have evidence that came out from the laptop and corroborated by other witnesses that 10% of the money went to the big guy, being Joe Biden.
Yeah, remember when everybody said, oh, he couldn't be that stupid to drop off his laptop and forget about it at a computer store, and now we know this is a big deal. President Trump, too, he's not giving up either on these legal challenges. I want to talk about this with you as well. Here's what he tweeted. The Supreme Court has a chance to save our country from the greatest election abuse in the history of the United States. Marc, where do you think things go from here?
Well, it's going to be very difficult. And obviously, I support the president. I worked for him in the White House. I worked on the campaign both in 16 and in 20. But this last Texas lawsuit, while innovative and interesting, it'd be very difficult to not only get them to make that decision retroactively, but then to have multiple state legislatures basically take over and appoint their own electors despite the outcome of what we think was the vote. I do see that it could be something that the Supreme Court might look at going forward, but it'd be a very heavy lift. And remember, it's not just one state that the president needs. Right. It's not like we were in 2000 with Florida. He would need multiple states, and that would be like, overcoming multiple Mount Everests.
I hear kind of the acknowledgement of what could be reality in this situation. A lot of people don't want to see the writing on the wall, but time waits for no man, not for President Trump. If anybody could probably stop time, it might be him. He's done some things that people haven't been able to do before. But you also hear reports. Jared and Ivanka reportedly have bought a new house in Miami, $30 million house. Also, we're hearing reports now about Lara Trump. She is considered to be the favorite among GOP candidates to run for the Senate in North Carolina. The interest here, though, surrounding the next generation of Trumps, I think, is very interesting here, because it shows us that no matter what happens on January 20th, if President Trump decides to run again in 2024, there's a legacy here, a legacy, poised to carry on this MAGA movement.
No, you're absolutely right. And I'll tell you, I got to know the Trump family very well through these last 4 years. Worked very closely with Lara and her husband, Eric, Don Jr., and they are all tremendous people, unbelievably savvy, but also smart in terms of where our country needs to go. And I think that if Lara throws her hat into the ring in North Carolina, she would absolutely be the favorite in that Senate race. And I would, for one, would love to see her put her name on the ballot, because I think she's such just a remarkable woman, as all the Trump family. They're all remarkable, and it'll be very interesting to see what legacy they have going forward, regardless of whether the president decides to run again in 2024 or not.
Yeah, we talked about Don Jr. and potentially heading up the NRA, which would be a very important post earlier this week.
Something he's very passionate about.
Yes, indeed he is. And they're passionate. NRA members are very passionate about him as well. Great to see you, Mark. Thanks so much.
Good to see you, John.
All right, well.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.